Right, let's go straight to Louise. Louise Sutherland from National Lottery Heritage Fund North. Louise, you're very welcome to this call, and I'll get your slides up. And I think one of the things that the network is good at is trying to share information and network amongst us, our knowledge. And this is one of those moments this morning where we're going to learn a bit more about the Heritage Lottery Fund application process, what it entails, what the word heritage means perhaps, and also some great examples of some successes. So Louise, over to you, and I shall get your slides going.
Thanks, Tom. Morning, everyone. And some faces I recognise, some faces I've never met before. So really great to be here. Thanks, everyone. So as Tom says, I'm Louise Sutherland. I work in the National Lottery Heritage Fund. I'm attached through our Manchester office, but work across the Northwest and have done for the past almost 7 years now. So, you know, a bit of an old hand, but hopefully today give you a bit of a sense of what we offer, what's available, and how you might access our funding if you choose to do so. So this isn't going to be a comprehensive kind of gamut through our funding and how you do it and all the nuance, but just a bit of a taster. And if you want to know more, you know, I'm really happy to have follow-up conversations or come back or whatever you need really to support you if you're thinking of an application. And Emma and I are going to do a bit of a double hander a bit later on. So I'm just going to go through some slides. So it's going to be mainly me talking. If you've got questions and things, you know, either hold on to them, drop them in the chat, and we'll definitely pick them up at the end. And we will try to keep to time. So if we can't answer anything, we'll take them away and we'll bring them back. So we will get back to you. So if we just go on to the next slide, please. So hopefully you've heard about the National Lottery Heritage Fund. We were called HLF, the Heritage Lottery Fund, a few years ago. And we've rebranded and we're now the National Lottery Heritage Fund. So as the name implies, we distribute National Lottery proceeds to heritage projects, not heritage organisations, but organisations that want to do heritage projects. And by heritage projects, we mean things that connect people and communities with heritage, now whatever that might be, and we'll talk about that a little bit, that creates a positive and lasting change. So your heritage could be the story of your street, the story of someone who lived in your house, you know, it could be something physical, it could be something, there's so many things really, and hopefully by the end of today you'll find out a little bit more. Move on to the next slides. So the first question really is, let's get through some of the practical stuff. So who can make an application to us? So we fund not-for-profit organisations and in some instances private owners, and if you think you might be a private owner, we'll have a separate conversation. Unfortunately, unlike the Arts Council, we cannot fund individual artists. But if you're a CIC or a cooperative or anything like that, then we might well be able to fund you. Our requirements are quite simple. If you're a not-for-profit, is that there's a constitution and a bank account, because if you don't have a bank account, we can't give you the cash to do the great project. Next slide, please. I feel like Chris Whitty, this is very exciting. So yeah, just a quick list here. So registered charities, CICs, CIOs, local authorities, schools, educational institutions, that could also be supplementary schools, anything that might fall into the community and voluntary sector. And like I said before, private owners of heritage. So that's just a bit of a quick list. It's not exhaustive. If you think you might be eligible, let's have a chat. Next slide. Okay. So as you might expect, as a funder, there are certain things that we look for. We're an outcomes driven funder. And if you've ever been through our website or received our funding, you'll know that in 2019, we introduced what we call a mandatory outcome, which is a wider range of people will be involved in heritage. And we want all our projects to work to achieve that mandatory outcome. So who are you working with? How are you involving them in the project? How are you working with them throughout the lifetime of the work that you're going to do? And not just in the products at the end. So how can you make a really enriching heritage engagement experience for people through your project? How are you going to measure it and how are you going to tell us about it at the end? And that's it. That's the only outcome a project needs to achieve. We do have other ones because projects come in all different shapes and sizes. Some of them might contribute to the local economy. So or the resilience of your organisation. So I'm not going to go through these in a lot of detail. There's a bit more of a descriptor on our website. But during 2021, 2022, so this current financial year, we've been focusing on these 6 outcomes you can see on the screen in front of you. We do have 9, but these are the 6 that we focused on. I'm going to say post-COVID, but in the big recovery reset, whatever the new normal, whatever the words du jour are around that. But focusing on those so that organisations can feel that they can pick the ones that sit best with them and build them into their heritage projects. We've just updated our priority outcomes for 22-23, and they will remain as these. So the little additional document that's on our website about priority outcomes is still valid and will be valid for the next financial year as well. So that's quite good in terms of stability. And if any of you have been thinking about a project now, that context remains until the end of next financial year. So that's quite good. Next slide, please. So this chart here just gives you a bit of a sense of how much is available. So because we are a lottery distributor, we've got quite a good healthy budget. We've got about 300 million across the United Kingdom, which shuffles out for the North area, which is where I work, about 40 odd million, hopefully, in the coming financial year. And it's split into 3 grant pots, which are crudely called small, medium and large. Now, I appreciate that £10,000 isn't a small amount of money, but procedurally, that's how they're shuffled out. So you can see here the small is 3 to 10. It's made in the North team, the decision. There's no deadlines. You get decision in 8 weeks. You can have up to 12 months. So it's super quick. I always say if you've got a cup of tea and a packet of Jaffa cakes, you could probably do an application in an afternoon. The medium grants, 10 to £250,000. Again, single round, no deadlines, 8-week turnaround, pretty good. You can have up to 5 years to deliver your projects. And we do run a supplementary project inquiry service. If you've got an idea and you want to have a chat with the team, you'll be allocated someone from our engagement team who will give you some bespoke advice and guidance on areas that you might want to look at in order to work more closely with our outcomes. And then the large grants, which are 250,000 to 5 million. So if you run a large venue, have been through a capital-based scheme that's been supported by the lottery before, you'll be familiar with this. And those decisions are made by our committee for the North. You can see them on our website. They're made up of people who apply to be part of our committee, so they're not paid staff. And you can have, it's a 2-round process and it's quite long and involved. And there's a sort of a gateway, a bit like the Arts Council capital programs, where you put in an expression of interest. And if you're successful, you can progress to an application. But if anyone wants to talk about the large grants, we can talk about them separately. That's kind of it, really. I just wanted to sort of gallop through that so you just get a bit of a sense of what is available. I'm going to bring Emma in now because Emma has quite a lot of experience working with and through our projects, and just be really great to have that bit of other side, someone who's actually delivered. I mean, I used to deliver Heritage Lottery Fund projects a long time ago, but it was a long time ago now. But Emma has some really relevant recent experience. So Emma, are you there?
I am. Thank you very much. Could we have the next slide, please, Tom? So I'm talking today as a freelancer. I've been freelance for over 14 years now. And as Lou said, quite a big proportion of my freelance work has been supporting applicants to the lottery fund in different ways. I've worked on more than 20 different projects now, and in fact, and they've all secured funding. And so I've helped to secure more than £40 million worth of grants over that time. And I work in 2 different ways. So I'm either commissioned directly by the applicant, and they usually pay me through a grant from the lottery in that round 1 application stage. Or the other way that I work is that I'm also a mentor for the lottery on something called the Register of Support Services. So the lottery might commission me to mentor an applicant, in which case the lottery pay me directly as well. So those are the 2 different ways that I have supported applicants over the time. Over that time, as I say, I've worked with more than 20 different projects. They're all completely different, but I think there's some common threads in terms of what makes a strong bid. So I thought I'd just run through a few thoughts on those tips of what makes a good application. I think the most important thing is to gather advice, and I hope Louise would she's smiling, I think she agrees with this, but to talk to Louise and her team, to read the guidance notes on the website, to ask questions, listen to the answers, respond with the answers, talk to other organisations that have had grants, and networks like this are just invaluable for that sort of information. And I hope as we chat further today, we can share some of those experiences from those of you who have had grants in the past. Really good applications have a strong evidence base. So you're showing the lottery as they're reading your application how you've made your decisions. You've scanned the horizon, you've made connections with other people, you know what else is going on, you've consulted people, and you're showing all of that in your application to say, this is why we want to do this amazing project. Projects need to be realistic, but you need to stretch yourself a bit as well. You need to show that you've got a track record, that the lottery can trust that you're going to be able to deliver this project. And if you haven't done something like that before, perhaps you might want to work with a partner who has done that sort of work before, so that you can again show that you can deliver. You might test out ideas and write that into your application as well. A really good application has a kind of compelling narrative. I always think of writing applications almost as a kind of really good storytelling, in fact. You need a bit of wow factor, but you've got to be really convincing, and it's all got to be connective and tell a really strong story. You need commitment from you and your organisation, from partners. You need to show, if you've said you're going to work with, oh, I don't know, your local National Health Service, wellbeing service maybe, you need to perhaps have a letter of commitment from them. The lottery need to know that it's more than just an idea on paper. You've got commitment there. The details really all need to add up. When I've mentored projects, I sometimes see early drafts of applications. The budgets don't add up, or the target numbers don't add up. You've got to make sure all that detail is in there. All the names are consistent, the timelines are consistent. So there's a lot of detail as well as the big narrative idea. The absolutely vital bit is, as Louise has mentioned, those outcomes that the lottery fund are driven by. You've absolutely got to show that you can meet that mandatory outcome of more people getting engaged in heritage. Lou, do you want to add anything else in here on the sort of tips and guidance?
No, I think you've covered it really well. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to fund projects that excite you, excite your participants, and that when they come in for assessment, we can hear our managers who are doing the assessment fall in love with your project as they're reading it. So if you write with passion about the work that you do, and I know many of you will be able to do that in spades, then that just makes it so much easier for us if you write that way.
That's a really good point to make, that the Louise and her colleagues are looking for really good applications. They're not teachers with red pens, you know, finding mistakes. They want really good applications from you. So take advantage of all of the support and guidance that's available through Louise and her team. Can we have the next slide, please, Tom? I'm just going to talk a little bit about heritage and what heritage might be. We've touched on this a little bit. And it's lovely to see some of the people here on the call today from the projects that I'm going to show some images of. I've picked out a few images from projects in Cumbria, and then some others that I've worked on in the Northwest. But perhaps I could start with the image top right. It's from Signal Film and Media. And hello, Liz Critchley, who's here today. And thank you for sending me this image this week. So Signal Film and Media in Barrow have had a Heritage Lottery Fund grant for the fantastic Sankey's project, where they acquired this wonderful photo archive from Sankey's local photography company in Barrow. But that photo archive has been used as the basis for lots of wonderful engagement projects with volunteers in the local community, gaining skills, digitizing images, doing research into archives. But there's also been lots of creative work that archive has been a base for, and a fantastic exhibition at the Dock Museum last year. So, okay, there's a fairly traditional, what you would think of as a heritage archive at the heart, but there's been lovely creative work as well that has come out of that as that project. One of the things that people don't always think of in terms of heritage is landscape and nature, but the Heritage Fund does fund natural heritage as well as what we think of more traditionally as history. So the image on the bottom left here is, I can't not use this image in a presentation like this. It's a lovely dormouse from the Back on Our Map project, which is another Cumbrian grant-funded project, which is led by the University of Cumbria, but with partners, Morecambe Bay Partnership and some of the areas of outstanding natural beauty in South Cumbria and the Morecambe Bay area. And that project is about working with local community volunteers again to reintroduce endangered flora and fauna and endangered species like the dormouse. There is a reason for that picture being there. Reintroducing those species to the South Cumbria and Morecambe Bay area. And in fact, the dormouse is being reintroduced to the Arnside and Silverdale AONB, which is where I live. It's right on my doorstep, so I'm particularly fond of that project. Bottom right image, some of you might recognise this is a work by Cumbrian artist Charlie Winnie, and that is part of an Eden Rivers Trust project that I worked on, must be 6 or 7 years ago now, the Cherish Eden project. And again, that was a natural heritage project to encourage local people to learn and get involved in the River Eden's conservation and care about its future. So that involved a lot of local community volunteers, but also some art commissions like this one from Charlie Winnie. And that image is of a marble run, which I believe was taken out to local communities and schools to talk about and really illustrate in a wonderful creative way the idea of rivers and water flow, marbles running down that fantastic structure that Charlie built. So natural heritage is really important to the lottery, as well as more traditional archives. The image at the top on the left is of local folk musicians in Manchester. So this was a project I worked on at Band on the Wall, which is a music venue in Ancoats in Manchester. And that project focused on the music heritage of that neighbourhood, Ancoats, which the music heritage that was brought to the neighbourhood by the immigrant communities into the area over the last couple of 100 years. Band on the Wall has been there since, I can't remember the year, over 150 years anyway. It has a long history in itself. So they really focused their project on community music programs, workshops, and understanding how the different heritage of the music and the immigrants in their community had built this amazing fusion now. And that has, they've put that into their program of performance, as well as school and community workshops as well. So music heritage can be completely relevant to these projects too. Next slide, please, Tom. Okay, a couple more on here. That fantastic image on the right is from artist Jez Dolan, and he's a Manchester artist. He has had 2 or maybe even 3 lottery grants now, working in a collective and a partnership. And he has been exploring the history of LGBTQ+ communities in Manchester. This project is from Life's a Drag, when he looked at the history of the drag scene, and he worked with volunteers from communities in Manchester to develop an archive, to do oral histories, gather memories, and he used all of that new archive material that he developed to create new performances and to create an exhibition, which was in place in Manchester Library, Central Library, 3 or 4 years ago now. So similarly, another performance related project up at the top there, I worked with the King's Theatre in Edinburgh over the last 2 years on their lottery bid. They were successful in November last year, and they're using the theatre's heritage combined with the social history of the neighbourhood in Tollcross in Edinburgh to develop new creative work. So again, they're working with volunteers, gathering memories, but using that as the basis for developing new creative work inspired by the theatre's heritage. They do wonderful work with people with dementia, reminiscence workshops as well, and with performers and writers and artists. And the final image on the bottom here is from Morecambe Bay Partnership. I have a vested interest. I am a trustee at Morecambe Bay Partnership, and hello to Claire and Michelle, who are here today from Morecambe Bay Partnership. I couldn't not put this image in. It's a really beautiful sculpture. Morecambe Bay Partnership have had a Heritage Lottery grant for a project called Headlands to Headspace, which was a really wide-ranging project. So that included natural heritage and community archaeology and social history, and getting volunteers as natural heritage ambassadors around Morecambe Bay, as well as social history and oral history gathering. But it also included artist commissions, and one of those was a commission from Anna Gillespie, and this is an image of the sculpture that she created called Ship, and it's at Half Moon Bay in Heysham. It's really beautiful. I really encourage you to go and have a look at it if you've not seen it. But Anna created this inspired by the history of the movement of people across Morecambe Bay. So she was inspired by the heritage of the area to do this commission. So my point in all of this nattering on is think of heritage really broadly. It's not just the traditional, as long as you've got heritage at the heart of your project and it's inspiring people to engage with heritage, new people to engage with heritage, then that's a really fundable project, hopefully, fingers crossed. And it can be about natural heritage, it can be intangible, it can be all sorts of things. So final slide, I think, Tom. I think we're ready, unless Lou wants to add anything else in at this point. I think we're ready to open up and ask people for questions and share experiences. Louise?
Thanks, Emma. There's been some really lovely stuff in the chat. I noticed there's some questions, so we will come on to them, but people sharing their experiences of either having what was HLF or recent Heritage Fund projects. And I think the really important thing and message I want to get across is art is a really great way of bringing to life heritage stories. And don't let the word heritage define you. You define the heritage you want to work with. You tell us what it is, why it's important to you and the communities and groups and organizations that you want to work with. You know, so the world is your oyster, and hopefully Emma's given you some ideas. There are some really practical things you can do. You know, we've got grant webinars we're starting to run for small grants because we're not out and about as much as we used to be. They're currently all online, but if there was interest for this group, we could maybe come and do a hybrid sort of mini workshop. If you wanted to look at small grants, be very happy to do so. And again, the project inquiry service is a really great way to start a dialogue with our office and to talk through how we can work with you and support you if you've got needs or requirements. I noticed there were a couple of questions about unsuccessful applications, but just be really interested in hearing some of your experiences, you know, the good, the bad, the in-between, and how we might work together going forward. Kate, have you spotted any questions you want to pick up on?
I have. There were some really good questions, but I would just like to start by saying that I've personally applied for lots of funding in the past in many different ways for many different national funders, and I have to say that the NLHF is one of, if not the best, in terms of the support that you can get, and I really mean that, and I think it's important to get that help and to know that it's there before you get started. So that would be my advice, having done many of these over the years. The questions in the chat, first of all, there's one from Amanda about accessing the mentoring scheme, and I guess she would have like to have had that. Amanda, do you want to just voice that?
Yeah, thank you. So I received a lot of help. I went through the portal. It was an over 10,000 application that I put in. I got initial advice and a letter from support, spoke to somebody. I then got a phone call back saying my application was unsuccessful, but do reapply. It took me a very long time to write, to develop all those community partnerships, put it in together. I thought I'd written a good application, and I'm familiar with writing applications to Arts Council and other funders. So to have a mentor scheme to nuance the application would be really useful, so that I actually address some of the issues. Obviously, you can't give fine detail as an applicant, and I got broad brush strokes. So yeah, I think I would like a little bit more, one-to-one support, really, I think.
Okay, I don't know the specifics of your individual application, Amanda, obviously, but I would always advise, if you're unsuccessful, to get some feedback, because it might simply be the meeting you were at was simply really oversubscribed, and actually you probably just need a very, very small tweak to an application to come back in. It might be just a little bit more detail on a really small bit. I would encourage you to come back in through the project inquiry service so we can have that conversation about how we can support you. We're not at this moment in time, we're not able to run like a mentoring support scheme for across the whole grants program. We just don't have the finances to do so, but we're trying to find ways to support people differently, and want to listen to what you might need, and to have a bit of a dialogue about how we might go about it. I can't promise we can solve it, but we're much more up to having those conversations now. So please do come back in touch. And let's see if you want to continue to do that project. I hope you do, and I hope you'll consider coming back to us, because we'd love to pick that up with you. Yeah,
I think it was just because it was such a big, it took a long time to write, and the project plan is unwieldy. So I think my comment there was that actually, if you want more communities to come in, the detail that you need and the cross-referencing across all the documents that was discussed is very unwieldy, and I'm not sure how accessible that is to your not-for-profit communities, as a comment, just having gone through the process.
Yeah, I completely hear that. Can I just ask, when did you make your application? What year was it?
Just before Christmas.
Okay.
So, and I got my feedback maybe literally the week before Christmas break. So I've just had a bit of time to think about it, and then this came up. So I was thinking, how can I better it? And I will go back, but yeah, just.
All right. Okay, yeah, because we have moved to a new online portal, which we're just figuring out how it all flows. But yes, I really hear that. Thanks, Amanda. I really appreciate that feedback.
And thank you. I hear that too, and I agree. Hazel, you're next.
Thanks, Kate. Louise and Emma, I just thought that was fantastic. It was down to earth, practical, and just so realistic. We applied from Save Grange Lido, as you know, Louise. We did our expression of interest, and we weren't successful on this occasion, but the feedback we got was really, really helpful. And that basically there was too much about the capital programme to bring back a swimming pool and not enough heritage. And you are the Heritage Lottery Fund. So we got that message loud and clear. But we're now developing a new approach in some ways. I mean, it's still the same project, but I'm trying to make sure that we really bring in arts, culture, music, gallery space, all of that kind of thing. So it's not just the swimming, it's actually a much wider artistic offer. And the other thing we've managed to do is we've got 2 interns from Lancaster University, and the one young man I'm working on doing creative writing. We're doing a social history project, tracking Grange from the coming of the railways in the 1850s all the way through in terms of working class leisure, and the stuff you told us about, you're trying to prioritise the things that your lottery buyers, you know, the people who buy the tickets, it's their money, and trying to prioritise that. So I do think for everyone, a kind of working class lens is really, and not in a patronising way, but absolutely grassroots arts activity. And some of the stuff we all see on here from Barra and places like that, we've got West Cumbria to come. I just think it's really refreshing that that's what you're doing, and it's tackling the elitism that's often sometimes around with big arts projects. So it was just to say thank you for being honest in your feedback, galvanising us to do something much more exciting than the original thing was, and we'll definitely be back. So thank you.
Well, thanks, Hazel. That's really great to hear. I've put some links in the chats for some different projects, but what I'll do is I'll put them all in a document and send them to Tom, and I'll make sure you've got all my contact details. You know, I'm expected to be inundated with emails. I have a high expectation, everyone, so don't let me down.
We've got time for 2 more questions. Come to you in a sec, Maggie, but Derek asks, Louise and Emma, could you please explain whether project grants include infrastructure and whether they can allow for bricks and mortar for a new facility?
Yes, you can include capital in your projects. I always think of it as fundamentally we fund engagement projects, so heritage engagement projects that may or may not have capital within them. So if you're coming to us for capital only, we're not going to be the funder for you. I'll be really blunt. If you're just after some bricks and mortar or some restoration and you don't want to involve your local community, then you're not going to succeed with our funding, unfortunately.
Okay.
But there are some examples on the website, but we can have a chat if you want.
Thank you. Maggie.
Hi, thank you, Louise, for that. That was really enlightening. And also, can I just say, because I think it's useful as well, that I fall in between Amanda and Hazel in my response to you, in that I just did a lottery application last year, feedback just before Christmas. Didn't get quite enough feedback, I felt, but was very much like Hazel in that we didn't hit the heritage story properly. It was very much a grassroots, working class, textile orientated history of Cockermouth Derwent Mills linked to our textile project. And I was kind of, my only problem was that it was a little bit kind of rebuked in that there wasn't enough heritage story. And I think it would be, in light of all of this, a good idea to discuss with you again, like you said, the mentor program with Emma, yourself being very open, and you've sounded so wonderfully open and helpful today. And I think it's probably a nice idea for me to try to understand how I didn't sell that story. Do you see what I mean? So I probably will be interested, but I also wanted to agree with Hazel and Amanda as I was in a similar situation.
Great, thanks, Maggie, and I really appreciate you sharing. And just very quickly to say that we are always at the Cumbria CVS funding fairs. There's one coming up in Barrow in a couple of weeks. There's one in Whitehaven at the end of March. You know, if I'm not there, some of our team will be there. So bob along and, you know, let's have a brew and a chat.
Thank you, Louise. We're almost coming to the end of this, but Kate, I think you've got something else as well. You got another question.
Well, Danielle had a really good question in chat, and you mentioned about the need to write passionately, and that many people here will be able to do that. But what if you are not able to do that, to write easily? Are there other ways of getting your application across and through?
That's a really great question. Thanks for raising it. The bottom line is we have an application form that requires words. So at the moment that you can apply with additional documents and imagery and things, but actually the process at the moment doesn't really allow for a wider range of application styles. I would suggest if you feel you're going to struggle quite a lot is to get in touch with the office. We've just updated sounds awful, the reasonable adjustment policy, to see whether there are more things we can do to support applicants before they make an application. But the bottom line is our staff are trained to look for the project, not for the English or the grammar or the spelling or anything like that. They are there to look for the joy and the heritage and the benefits to people who buy lottery tickets.
Thanks. That's good advice.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you to Emma as well. Leslie says in chat, there is someone new to grant funding. The help, discussions and guidance from HLF have been brilliant, very human and honest. So that's lovely to read. So thank you very much for just kind of scratching the surface of the process this morning, Louise. And thanks for those great examples, Emma. £40 million of grants is an astonishing figure. You should be very proud of yourself. So Louise and Emma, if you can just pop your details into chat again. If people missed it on the last slide, that would be very helpful. And I'm sure you will be inundated with all sorts of great questions. And if we can pull some more heritage lottery funding into Cumbria, and obviously places beyond Cumbria as well, but we love Cumbria the most. That'll be fantastic. And thank you for explaining heritage and what it all means. A really great presentation. Thank you for your time this morning. And thank you to everybody for your questions as well. Right, moving on slightly in a dotted line, we're going to just talk about curating the Curating for Change programme now. And Kate's got a few words to say about that. So Kate, share your thoughts.
So yeah, just as a neat segue, really, I want to talk about a really important NLHF funded project that Cumbria Museum Consortium is a part of. So Curating for Change is a national project funded by NLHF, and it's about creating more opportunities for people with disabilities and people who are neurodivergent in museums. So there are about 20 museums up and down the country part of this, from the National Railway Museum to Cumbria Museum Consortium to Museum of Rural Life in Reading, that kind of thing, a huge mixture. But I wanted Cumbria Museum Consortium to be part of it because I wanted Cumbria to have a voice, and I wanted rural museums to have a voice, for it not to be just big players. So we are a part of it, and what it means is that we are now able to offer a paid curatorial traineeship to somebody who identifies as disabled or neurodivergent. Amy's just put the details in chat, but basically it's a 40-day paid traineeship across Cumbria Museum Consortium. So that is Tully House Museum, Wordsworth Grasmere, or Lakeland Arts. So it could be any one of the three or all three, and you will work with us on a project of your choice and learn the skills of being a curator and get a taste of what it's like to work in a museum, and help us to make museums more accessible and help us to make the voices and stories of people with disabilities heard better. So that's what the project is about, and how to apply, the link there is in chat, but we would love to hear from you if you're interested. If you know somebody who is disabled or neurodivergent who might want to apply, please send the details to them. And if they want somebody to talk to, I'm the person, and I would love to do that. So the deadline is the 14th of March. Yeah, and it's a really flexible, really interesting way of getting into the museum world. And I really want to hear from people who are interested. So please help me spread the word. That's it. Thank you.
You really want to hear from people.
I really do.
A nice invitation. All right. Thank you very much, Kate. So we've got people on the call today. These are just the people I know: Kendal, Silverdale, Barrow, Wigton, Bolton, Carlisle, Cockermouth, Bassenthwaite, Lancaster and Ulverston. So one of the great things about these calls is we really get around the county. But we're going to go to Keswick now, because we're going to show you a little film shortly of a great, lovely children's event taking place in Keswick. So Kate, over to you to introduce that and talk with Stefan.
Yeah, hello, Stefan. Stefan's the vice chair of our network. Hello, Stefan.
Hello.
So you're about to present a new production next week in Keswick, aren't you? And maybe in a second you can tell us about that, but tell us about this little film that you're about to show.
This film introduces a new strand of work that I'm making with my theatre company Ragged Edge, and it's called Audio Adventures. And it's a bringing together of the intimate power of audio with the spectacle of outdoor performance, and outdoor performances in places that mean something to the people that attend them. So this works in two ways. We make shows in the traditional sense, performance events with professional creative teams. The example we're doing next week in half term is a family show. It's a cheeky version of Red Riding Hood in the woods in Keswick. Tickets available on Thursday still, but it's selling very well, I have to warn you. But possibly the more exciting aspect of this is the participatory version. And I know Mark Gibbs is on the call from Carlisle Youth Zone. I'm really pleased to let you know that the Arts Council have funded us to make several audio adventure projects this year. And in the summer, we'll be doing the participatory version, where I work with a group, in this case, it's a youth group in Carlisle, to make their own audio adventure. So they make the audio material and they will be the performers as well. And the audience, their experiences, they go along a specially selected route, wearing headphones, and they receive audio content, and they see performers appear before their very eyes in quite a flash mobby way. Who knows what will happen around the corner? And I'm keeping all that quite generic because an audio adventure can be any number of things, and it's all to do with what the people in that place want to observe, say, what story they want to tell about a place that means something to them.
So we're going to see the film now of the last one, which was called Lost and Found, wasn't it? And I went along to the dress rehearsal to watch that, and it was so great. It was great fun and just so novel and interesting. So let's enjoy this, and nobody is to laugh at my dancing, which appears fleetingly.
What is Audio Adventures? Audio Adventures is performance outside. It's live outdoor performance. We bring together the intimacy of audio, that powerful intimate storytelling, with the excitement of being outdoors. That's what we're combining. So we have audio and we have the physicality of being outdoors.
So the Audio Adventures, kind of the thing that makes it special is the fact that we are basically kind of a covert mission. We're wearing these headphones and it's like a silent disco where we, the audience around us, you know, they don't know what's going on. So we're fully immersed in the story through these headphones, and that's what makes the adventure so special, because, you know, we're hearing this story but nobody else really knows what's going on.
You're in this world with all the other people that are listening to it, and it really kind of hones you into the focus of what's going on, but also creates this strange situation in public where people are reacting, going, what are they listening to? This is like, what's going on?
Lost and Found is a very particular example of Audio Adventures. It's a rom-com. It's a fun rom-com, which we all need at the moment. We need a bit of a laugh. We meet the gods. We meet Cupid and his mum, Venus. And they're commenting on two poor mortal souls that we're following through the streets of Keswick, who they've picked up, and the challenge is, can these poor mortal souls find love themselves?
We hear their journey obviously through the story, but we see that journey come through dance, through movement, and that non-verbal communication really allows us to kind of get into the emotion of the story.
There's a lot of moments where it's really feeding off the audience's reactions and really letting them see and interacting with them, letting them see this spell, this change in us happen. And I think with the audience, that's going to be really exciting to bounce off their energy with it. So looking forward to that.
When the audience arrive, we give them headphones, comfortable over-ear headphones, so they can receive the audio on the route that we're travelling. We have worked with that route in some detail so that we're responding to that with our narrative, with our story, whatever that might be. And we make sure that they're a response to that particular place. So we're looking forward to working with people who will have history and memories of particular places, and we'd love to make stories about those.
Audio Adventures has such scope. I think it's something that is, this is a very, very small part of what Audio Adventures could be. The adventure can go anywhere. It can be in any space. It could be with a variety of people. The idea is endless, really. The adventure can go wherever it needs to go, and that's the beauty of this concept.
Fantastic stuff, Stefan. Good luck with the shows at half term next week. All the details on the Theatre by the Lake website. It's great fun and it's different, and it's just a lovely way to spend some time. So good luck with that, Stefan. Love the originality and imagination that's gone into that. Thank you.
For your time. Thank you.
All right. So let's now finally say hello to Daniel Ibbotson, a fantastic visual artist based in Carlisle, who is off to Venice in the springtime. An amazing opportunity for Daniel. Daniel, say hello to us and tell us your story. Is Daniel there still? Oh, has he slipped away? He was here.
No, he's there. He's on mute. You're on mute, Daniel.
Daniel, you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, sorry about that. Right, first time on Zoom calls, so apologies for any mistakes I'm making. I'll give you a little bit of a timeline as far as the offer I've been given, because it started quite a while ago in November 2020. I got an email from the European Culture Centre asking me if I would like to exhibit in an exhibition in Venice that ran from April through to November. So obviously I thought it was a joke, because sometimes as an artist you get offers from California from people whose wife has seen your work and would like to buy some of it, and they basically just want your bank details. So I took it with a pinch of salt, and but I contacted them back and I said, yeah, thanks for the offer, but you know, can you send me some more details? So they did. They offered me the opportunity, but there was a cost to it, and it was 16,000 euros. So obviously I took that and thought, thanks very much, but I can't afford that. But they got back to me, and they just carried on bothering me and asked, look, you know, we really like your work and we'd like you to come over. You don't have to pay all this money straight away. So I thought about it. They sent me some details, and from what I saw, I mean, it was a genuine offer. And I did some research. They've had Yoko Ono, they've dealt with Daniel Libeskind, Marina Abramovich, and Anthony Gormley, you know, in the past. So, and then they sent me a lot of information to research, and, you know, examples of their exhibitions and everything else, previous exhibitions. So I thought, well, why not? You know, if this is an opportunity of a lifetime. And they said, look, payment wise, you can pay over the course of a year, you know. So I thought, I broke it down and I thought, right, which way do I do this? Do I go down the lottery funding and everything else, or do I earn it? You know, and because I'd set up Proceed previously, the basis of that was introducing new artists with established artists into a very small, and that was to do with, you know, my reaction to COVID, you know, to try and get some sort of exhibition that was safe to walk around and would introduce lots of different people that could have physical exhibitions. So in a way, the exhibition I'm going to in Italy is based on a similar idea, because they've got people like, this year they've got Martin Parr, photographer, and Lincoln Townley, who sells for like £250,000, and me, you know, we're the three UK artists, you know. And I spoke to the people. I said, look, are you sure you've got the right person? I work on a building site, you know, I'm a decorator. And they said, no, we saw your work at Manchester Art Fair in 2019 and we really like it. We've got spotters all over the world, and we find people that we like with different type of work, and we offer them an opportunity. So I've taken it.
Let me cut across to you. I'm going to ask you how that made you feel in a second, but Kate is just holding up a piece of your work.
Yeah, that's it.
In a nutshell, Daniel, what sort of artist are you? Describe your art for
us. Abstract, textural, sculptural, and based on experience, based on life experiences, but multi-layered life experiences. And yeah, I mean, sorry, you put me on the spot there, but, you know, without going into my biography, it's I can't dictate how a piece starts and ends. So it's like throwing something on a washing line. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't, you know, but when it does stick, it's like the best feeling. I can't explain how good that feeling is, but that's how I work. I'm going to Venice, and I haven't done any work for Venice yet, by the way. I mean, I'm going in March, and I spoke to the organisers in Venice, and I said, what I'd like to do is to come and live in Venice for a month, leading up to the exhibition, and create the work in Venice from scratch. Now, I know that's a risk, but then what have I got to lose? You know, I'm an unknown artist to them. So that's puts me in a very powerful position as far as how I display work. Because when you think about the time, they contacted me in November 2020. So I could have been working on an absolutely insane masterpiece from then until now. But what I've got is 54 sheets of lining paper at 40 centimeters square. And that's how I'm going to work. I'm taking that in a plastic bag to Venice. I've got an Airbnb in the Jewish quarter in Venice for 33 nights for 600 quid. And I'm going to go around the streets and find objects and just take in the city and create the work based on the experience, my experience in the city.
Okay.
And that way you get the soul of the city running through the work, you know, and for me, that's more important than anything. So
in the 2 minutes we've got left, Daniel, is there an ask that you're making to the artistic and cultural community on this call right now?
Sorry?
Is there anything you'd like to ask support-wise or help-wise from people on the call now?
My friend set up a GoFundMe page. I'm not asking for money, by the way, because I've earned it in commissions. And thank you, John Parkinson. One of the commissions was at the New Cancer Centre, which John Parkinson gave me a commission to contribute to, which helped pay my fees. So I've paid my fees. All I'm looking for now is a little bit of help, because I've got maintenance fees, which is I've got to pay for as though I'm back here in Carlisle whilst I'm away. Plus, I've paid for my flights, I've paid for my accommodation, and I will live as frugally as possible over there. But I also have to pay for my living costs back here. But because I've earned the money myself, all of this will be neutralised by the fee for going there. So, but yeah, I'm like I say, I'm not asking for money. I've got a GoFundMe page, so any contributions are great. But I'm also looking at what happens afterwards, which is bringing work back to Carlisle or to Cumbria. And because I'm taking objects and different things from Cumbria and including it in the work over there, you know, there's this cross-cultural exchange basically going on. So
okay. Well, Daniel, if you want to Google Daniel, you'll find him. He's on Facebook, and that GoFundMe site is there. Daniel, it's an amazing achievement, and I just salute you. There's a great film that has been made as well of Daniel in a big room doing a big painting on the wall and talking about where he's come from and what his ambitions are, which I really highly recommend to you as well. You'll find that as well if you Google that. So Daniel, got all of our support. When do you actually head off to Venice?
23rd of March.
23rd of March.
Yeah, fingers crossed. If not, you know, that I'll just send work over. The exhibition runs from April the 24th through to November the 27th. So, okay. Well, you know, worst case scenario, I've got work in that exhibition for that long, and it's going to be seen by 500,000 people. It's a free event. And yeah, like I say, it runs alongside the 59th Venice Biennale. So,
okay, good luck and all of our love and support for your travel.
Thanks very much.
And congratulations again on the opportunity. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks very much.
Right, 29 minutes past 10. Whoa, what an hour it's been. Kate, where are you at with your final words?
And the pressure to say something wise at this point is enormous. But, you know, what we try and do here at the network is bring people together and create opportunities, empower you to do amazing stuff. And we have seen and heard some brilliant things this morning. Good luck to Daniel. I really, really hope you get there and it's a wonderful experience. Thank you, you know, to Louise and to Emma for the words from NLHF. I would really urge you to think about applying to the NLHF and to use the support that's there and to think about partnership and collectives, because although there aren't necessarily opportunities for individual artists on their own, there is power in partnership, and I hope that that's what this network can bring. So that's it from me and from today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate. Okay, next week we've got Fiona Rocha and Poppy Oldham from the Dales Countryside Museum in Hawes, who are doing a dialect and heritage project, which is very much encompassing Cumbria as well. So I'll talk to you more about that on Facebook and in the newsletter next week. And that's just what I've got lined up so far. There will be other bits and bobs too. Great to see so many faces, both old and new here. And when I say old, I obviously don't mean old. I mean familiar and new this morning. It's a beautiful day in Cumbria, and I'm sure it is beyond Cumbria too. So have a nice day, have a nice weekend, and we'll see you again next week, same time, same place.